can all agree that some things are best left alone, especially when it comes to the classics in horror. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst horror movie remakes.
Get you and your family out of that house, right now.
For this list, we've picked movie remakes in the horror genre based on a mix of their lack of originality, negative reviews, poor acting and/or production, as well as those that seemed completely unnecessary and/or that they were redone only to make money. Number 10, House on Haunted Hill.
Some say the spirits of Vannicut and his victims still live within the walls of the House on Haunted Hill.
As the first movie produced by Dark Castle Entertainment, a company that initially intended to specialize in remakes, you would think that they would have put more effort into this production.
I guess you'll just have to try harder next time.
The original 1959 movie garnered a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. But this 1999 version squeaked out a meager 27%.
From here on, it gets really scary.
Instead of being scary, House on Haunted Hill played on too many cheesy horror tropes.
It wasn't goddamn ghosts. This is plain and simple good old-fashioned homicide.
And depended too much on special effects.
Stephen, I want you. I've always wanted you.
The result was a film that seemed rushed, with little attempt to make the characters likable.
That's a whole new bunch of crazy shit. You'll hate that shit.
Number 9, The Amityville Horror.
Oh, God!
This movie tries to pay homage to the 1979 original. But it should have tried harder to be original. Instead of coming off as authentic, maintaining the 1970s look for the set design seemed like a cheap way to make the movie appear scarier than it really is.
We stay here, we'll have a house for the family, only there won't be a family!
The Amityville Horror hinges on the believability of the father's descent into madness. But nice guy Ryan Reynolds was horribly miscast for the role.
You listen to me. You don't go down there. Understand?
The movie seemed to focus more on his washboard abs rather than the character's psyche.
Seriously, you trying to kill me?
Number 8, Carrie.
Crazy Carrie!
In contrast to the Oscar-nominated 1976 adaptation, there was just something about this 2013 version that felt too nice. Based on the Stephen King novel of the same name, Carrie tells the story of a young outcast who discovers she is telekinetic.
Telekinesis unlocking the mind.
In the first film, Sissy Spacek brought a vulnerability and otherness to the role.
I got invited to the prom.
However, in this adaptation, Chloe Grace Moretz seemed too likable to play a social misfit, and her make-under wasn't anywhere near believable. Almost everyone in this new cast seemed too Hollywood and glamorous for their parts, and it just didn't work.
This is bullshit! We didn't do anything wrong! Alright, let's go! Right, Sue? You're with me on this, right?
Number 7, One Missed Call.
To listen to your messages, press 1. Voice call received Wednesday, June 14th, 12:02 p.m.
Hollywood often imports Asian horror movies and remakes them for a Western audience.
But I heard them, okay? Leanne got a phone call, and so did Brian right before they died.
And they don't always do well. This film is no exception.
Any dead people call? We're not home.
Instead of playing up the suspense and darkness of the 2003 Japanese flick, 2008's One Missed Call added forced relationships and random scenes that were meant to scare but ultimately failed.
That's not my ringtone.
It says it's from Shelley.
That's creepy.
The script had no direction, and it was universally panned for trying to borrow elements from other horror movies.
It's 8:32 p.m. on Friday. That's 2 days from now.
The cast's uninteresting performances only made matters worse.
Ryan! Your phone!
Damn it, I forgot. I swear if I didn't have my head screwed on.
Number 6. Prom Night.
It's prom night? That boy's planning on getting laid.
The 1980 version of Prom Night was a straightforward slasher flick and knew it. It also had a completely different storyline. However, this 2008 remake pretends to be something that it's not by adding way too much backstory to make the movie more interesting.
Look at me! Can we go now?
Be together forever.
You ain't gonna be anywhere. You're gonna be in jail.
This resulted in the opposite effect, proving just how poorly written and stereotypical many of its characters were.
He's making me so damn mad, and on top of that, I have killer cramps.
And in an attempt to earn more viewers and keep the movie PG-13, the filmmakers barely showed any bloodshed on screen, which kind of misses the point of a slasher film.
Please don't do this. Please don't.
Don't be afraid.
Number 5. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Produced by Michael Bay's horror production company Platinum Dunes, the remake of the well-regarded 1984 film seemed pretty pointless from the start.
Wake up, Nancy! Wake up!
To change things up, the 2010 film took some of the campier elements away from Freddy in an attempt to get to his darker roots.
This won't hurt. One little bit.
This made A Nightmare on Elm Street feel bloated with backstory and unnecessary exposition.
He was a gardener. He lived in the basement of the preschool, and you kids were his life.
The movie's CGI also seemed to distract from the actual story, and it wasn't as memorable. It might have been a financial success, especially for an R-rated film, but it had nothing on Wes Craven's take.
Who are you?
Number 4. The Omen.
Damien? You okay?
The studio behind this movie clearly saw an opportunity when it chose to release this remake of the 1976 suspense horror on June 6, 2006, or 666, otherwise known as the Number of the Beast.
For only when he is within you can you defeat the devil's son.
But instead of doing anything remotely creative with the concept, they just retold the original movie frame by frame.
For only if he is within you can you defeat the son of the devil. I see. He's killed once, he'll kill again.
The Omen was acceptable enough for those who'd never seen the Richard Donner version.
He knew that he was dying. Apparently, yes. He said that he wanted to be forgiven by Christ.
But those who had were cheated.
He knew he was dying.
Yeah, apparently.
He said he wanted to be forgiven by Christ.
Despite a stellar cast, including Mia Farrow, Liev Schreiber, and Julia Stiles, the movie fell flat, and there were very few thrills. Number 3. The Fog.
It killed him. The fog killed him.
Despite being produced by John Carpenter, the director of the 1980 original,
Stay away from the fog.
the 2005 remake, directed by Rupert Wainwright, was problematic from start to finish.
The fog killed them.
Instead of creating the same sense of suspense and mystery the first film featured,
I think I'll go to Vancouver now.
this rendition was clunky and virtually scareless.
Stop screaming, we'll get nothing done.
Viewers and critics complained about the lack of empathetic characters,
Pass over here and have some fun. Ooh, look at that.
and the fact that many of these were reduced to horror movie cliches.
I know it sounds crazy, but I felt like I'd seen it somewhere before.
Not to mention the fact that the film received a whopping 4% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, alerting potential viewers to stay away from the get-go. Number 2, The Wicker Man.
You know anything about a place called Summer's Isle?
As an actor, Nicolas Cage can be hit or miss, and this project has to be one of his biggest letdowns.
Sorry, I'm Edward Malis from California. I'm a policeman. See my badge?
The script seemed to be all over the place,
I think you all should know that I'm here on business.
as the screenwriter tried to add more material from the novel that the 1973 cult classic was based on.
Now, for the last time, where is Rowan Morrison?
Instead of strengthening the supernatural horror thriller, this made for an incoherent plot, while moments that were meant to be scary came off as humorous.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Open my eyes! Eyes! Ah!
However, due to its awesomely bad reputation, this version of The Wicker Man has had a second life thanks to a cult following.
Now, why in the hell would you let them do a sick thing like that?
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
He's still hunting them. But if I'm here, he can't harm them.
Who's killing who?
This guy with the chainsaw. Jason.
Hey, what the you doing, man? All right, you know what? That's it. Ride's over, pal.
Number 1, Psycho.
A boy's best friend's his mother.
It's a pretty ambitious project to attempt to remake a film by one of the greatest directors of all time.
Thank you, Mr. Bates.
Norman Bates.
And it's an even bigger challenge to think you could actually improve on it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bates.
Norman Bates.
But in 1998, that's what it seems like director Gus Van Sant tried to do when he tackled Alfred Hitchcock's iconic horror thriller from 1960. But instead of bringing anything new to the table, Van Sant basically recreated the original version shot by shot. His rendition of Psycho has also been panned for its acting performances, including Vince Vaughn in the role of Norman Bates.
She's harmless. She's as harmless as one of these stuffed birds.
And Anne Heche as Marion Crane.
All right, Miss,
Crane.
Crane. That's it.
Good night.
Do you agree with our list? Which horror movie remake do you think is the worst? For more original top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
You can only push someone so far before they break.